Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of Hangout of Witches. Hi, I'm Beth, and if you're joining us for the very first time, this is our live after show. I mean, it's not really an after show hangout. It's like it's a talk about the show kind of recap show, sort of for a Discovery of Witches. So if you're just finding a Discovery of Witches, if you're finding it for the first time, maybe it's new on AMC and you've just watched it and you're looking for people who've been talking about it. That's us. Hi, go back to episode 1. But if you're not new and you've been watching it for a long time, hi, we're glad you're here. And we're glad that you're joining us live. If you are joining us live, use the hashtag a Hangout of Witches on Twitter, or make sure that you do it in our mentions so that we can see that as well, or talk to us on YouTube. And we're glad to have you. We want to talk to you tonight. I'm having a Merlot and some peanut butter M&Ms. Everyone else say hello. Jana, why don't you start us off?
Hi, I'm Jana. I'm excited to talk about the episodes tonight because I'm all fired up. And I am drinking a hard cider from my hometown of Bend, Oregon. I don't live there anymore, but they make good cider. And I am probably going to work my way through this sleeve of Thin Mints.
Oh, wow.
So,
joy.
Yeah, we'll see if I can hold myself back.
I didn't know that you were from Bend, Oregon. I like that.
Mm-hmm. We live in Idaho now, but
okay.
I grew up in Bend.
That's cool.
It's a crazy place.
Emily, say hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emily, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I am drinking a Michael Bubbly. In the commercials.
I love that commercial.
Yeah, I thought they were really funny. So it's a strawberry sparkling water. So
Yum.
Bubbly.
You know, LaCroix doesn't make a strawberry.
They don't. They don't.
For being the #1, sparkling water brand, you think they would make kind of the #1 flavor.
Right.
They don't.
So, they don't. So I got the strawberry bubbly.
That's curious.
So.
I'm intrigued. Wonder why they don't do it. Anyway, let's get started talking about Discovery Witches. Okay, so if you're watching with us and you've been watching with us, I might have told you to listen that this was going to be about episodes 4 and 5, but we talked about episode 4 last week. So this is episodes 5 and 6, which historically we've been very excited about this show and had lots of great things to say, but 5 and 6, not the best episodes. If you just watch them in a chunk like I did today, just 5 and 6, it's an experience. You're like, oh yeah, I thought the show was good. What are we watching? What are we watching? Let's recap just really quickly. Emily, did you have stuff you wanted to talk about episode 4? Or anything else that we need to go back over real quick?
No, I was good because I was like episode 4 because I rewatched episode 4. Remember, that's okay because I was like, oh yeah, the witch water and all of these things, and I missed.
You mean that gentle rain? The gentle rain. It's not witch water.
I was at work. I was at work really late last time, and I was on Twitter in the YouTube comments last time because
yes, you were.
I couldn't be here. So I was really excited to talk about that. And that's totally not at all what I thought Witchwater was going to be like. So I was really sad I missed that. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to say about this. My imagination is really vivid. And so getting here to episode 5, there's some things, again, I think we're going to be a little bit more nitpicky on these couple of episodes. So
yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you that I felt the Witchwater, it should have been, and we said this last time 2 weeks ago, that it should have just been like coming out of her body in these huge droplets and like hitting the ground, and like all of her orifices should have just been like showered with like balls. Yeah, and not even in like a fire hydrant kind of way, but in like a metaphysical droplets or something, like just something really, really cool and full and slippery, and just just all of the ways that like you can imagine some kind of supernatural water to emerge from someone's body. And it was just nothing. It was literally not even a hard rain. It was just like, just so simple and soft.
And you didn't get a sense. Oh.
No, sorry, Jana. X-Men. There's in X-Men when they wanted to turn all of the people into X-Men, and they like experimented on one of the guys, and he like turns into this guy who like morphs through the tubes or something like that, morphs through the prison bars or something like that, and like he liquefies. Like that's what I imagined it would be when you liquid, like when you go into a complete liquid state. So
yeah,
that's what I meant.
something very, very specific.
Yeah.
Not just that it starts to rain.
Because you didn't really feel that at first, like she was causing it. That was not immediately apparent until everyone rushes in. It's like, witch water. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
she did that?
Yeah. You have to wait for Isabeau to be like, she's doing this. And then you're like,
Yeah.
is she?
It's her.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a little French rainstorm.
No, yeah. It's not just kind of sadness. It's not just sad times. It sucks. But anyway, we're glad that that's over.
Yes.
Now we're hitting into some witchy stuff that's kind of maybe potentially worse. So episode 5 starts out fine. I mean, Matthew has left and Isabeau is being very belligerent to Diana. She's just like, you're not going anywhere. I don't, because originally Diana's like, I'm just going to go home. He left me. I should probably go to my aunt's. And Isabeau's like, you're not going anywhere. And I'm going to be really mean to you for the next couple of days.
Okay, you can't go anywhere, but I'm going to try to scare you away as much as I can. But you're still trapped here.
It's a very odd dynamic. And it's not really explained very well what she's trying to do. She wants to scare her off, but also she's giving her all of the information about Matthew that Diana's been like chomping at the bit for. So she's also feeding her obsession. It's weird.
So you both are married. What was meeting your mother-in-law's like?
It's a great question. I don't remember meeting my mother-in-law for the first time because we knew them kind of. They went to our church.
Okay.
But I do remember like the first time I was around them, like we went out and like hung out, and they were very intimidated by me. So that was kind of my experience. My mother-in-law is the sweetest, most patient, sweetest woman in the entire world. And I was at the time 20 years old and very brash and full of myself and just, dating her very handsome young son and just thinking I was kind of awesome. In fact, I think the first time I went to their house, I was bleaching his hair blonde. Like just took over their kitchen and was like, I'm going to bleach his hair. Like they were like, what is this girl doing? So I think they were kind of scared of me, which explains a lot now that it's been 20 years. So anyway, but that's my experience. Terrifying them. Jana?
I do not have an Isabeau for mother-in-law, so that's nice. I was when my husband and I first started dating, I was kind of going through a goth phase. Like I was 19.
Excellent.
I was just wanted to be like hardcore and aloof and cynical and sarcastic, and they are not that way. They're like good Nebraskan people. So, and they're huggers. So it took a while for me to warm up to the hugging. And
they're huggers.
Yeah, they're huggers.
I thought you said they were hoggers, and I was anticipating that they did stuff with pigs that I didn't understand.
No
pigs. You said they were from Nebraska, so that totally made sense.
No pigs were involved.
And I was like, I can understand why it took you a long time to warm up to the hogging. But anyway.
The hugging.
Gotcha.
So many hugs. Hug when you meet, hug when you leave. Hugs for no reason.
Oh, that's sweet.
So I never had to watch my mother-in-law like tear into a deer and drink its blood.
No, not even a fox. Even that's a lot.
Not even a fox.
Yeah. So I enjoy the hunting scenario. I like the back and forth. I like Isabeau showing her how the vampires hunt, while Matthew is hunting a woman that we've met and known.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think
super cool.
Yeah,
love it.
It's really great, but I don't love the way they're showing Isabeau hunt. And then what she ends up hunting just being a fox. I would be like, didn't y'all see Twilight? Haven't you seen Vampire Diaries? Like they do this a lot better on shows on the CW. You could do it it could be a little bit cooler, and it just wasn't. It was kind of lame. I felt bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like she went very far. Like they're in the same clearing.
Mm-hmm.
What did you get? I mean, what were you guys thinking? Were y'all thinking the same thing, or am I being overly critical?
I like the juxtaposition of, hunting, definitely both hunting prey, but in different ways, and one for vengeance, one for food. And I mean, that was what my notes were, because, you know, Matthew definitely got what he needed out of Jillian to find out why she broke into the lab and what was she doing, and getting the information. That was, that was one of my notes, that was, how they cut the scenes together was really interesting. That was one of the high points, I think, of the
Yes,
episode.
I agree.
Um, but because how it was intermixed was great. But I do think the tension that was built there fell flat with then how I mean, Lindsay Duncan, I think, is a fantastic actress. I love her. She was in some other BBC dramas that I just have loved, and so I've loved her in other things. I think one of them was MI6 and some other things that she's done, and so I just have always liked her as an actress. But I think it just fell flat seeing her hunt as a vampire. I do think she's great for the part, but seeing her hunt, I think, is just weird for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird scene. Yeah.
I don't think in any scenario that was going to be like a good scene. It was always going to be a little weird.
I mean, it would be like seeing Helen Mirren be a vampire and hunt.
Yeah. I mean,
mouth smear. I thought Isabel would be like a cleaner drinker, like blood. I wanted her to like whip out a hanky,
years, right?
Yeah, you think she would have gotten less messy.
Yeah, she like licks her leather gloves at one point, and you're like, "Yeesh, what are you doing?" But I don't know. I felt like when you see Matthew hunt a couple of episodes before, it's way more elegant, and there's this, there's a symbiosis between him and the deer, and what would have been really cool is if while they're doing Matthew hunting with Jillian, and you see him talk to Jillian, and they have this back and forth, be showing Isabeau's back and forth with some bigger animal that she's stalking. And even though they're not going to be speaking to one another, but show that kind of whether or not it's the fear and trepidation of the deer or whatever she was going to go after, and her determination, and then her going in for the jugular while Matthew's doing the same thing. And then you see Jillian, you really, when he goes in for that information, when he goes in to bite her, you see her really graying. Like she looks purple almost in how dead she looks. And it would be cool to see the same thing with whatever Isabeau is eating and drinking at the same time. And instead, they're kind of focused on Diana's perspective of the hunt. And that's really boring because she's not really reacting to it at all. And I really wish they had just stayed focused on Isabeau and her hunt and what it was like, and made sure that they, juxtaposed it with Matthew's completely, like just scene for scene. So it would have been a little bit more tension.
I agree with that. And with Matthew's hunting scene, like you really saw his power as a vampire, like his speed, and then the elk or whatever it was, like coming up and like bowing to him. And Isabeau created Matthews. Like she should be far more powerful, far more older. Like she doesn't have to leap after foxes in a clearing. Like it would have been really cool, like you said, to have that, her facing off with like a larger animal and even just like mentally overpowering it.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. And just showing when she says to Diana, can you live with this? This is how a vampire hunts. We haven't seen her do anything. The only thing we saw her do was tear through some meat that looked like what Emma just said in the YouTube chat, that looked like a sock puppet. I mean, it looked like already a dead fox that she was just chewing on. Like, okay. We've all seen survival movies where people have to eat whatever. It's not that big a deal. So we haven't really seen her do anything. And that means Diana hasn't really seen it either. So it was a little disappointing.
It should have been like a big bear or like a cute little bunny, because both would have been savage.
Yeah.
Isabeau just ripping into Peter Rabbit. That also would have gotten the message across.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever seen another, other than Twilight, seen vampire movies or shows where they hunt animals and what that looks like? And has it ever looked better that you can think of?
I mean,
think
Vampire
not.
Diaries did a little bit, but not well.
It seems like Vampire Diaries did a lot better when the vampires were hunting people.
Right. But like Stefan tried to teach Elena how to do the animal diet right off the bat when she turned, only because I literally just watched it like last week because I rewatched that season.
That's awesome.
I know. I was like, no, I just literally watched it.
Speaking of, I have a werewolf on my shirt, which I've worn this shirt many times, but it's a werewolf.
Nice. Because we're just that into vampires. That's how we vampires and werewolves. That's how we roll.
I really think that this series and this book series needed werewolves, and I would have been happier with werewolves than the demons. So I'm throwing that out as that would have made more sense to me, and I would have been happier with it. But anyway, not my call. I want to talk about Matthew being. I just realized that my sweater is teal and my curtains are teal, and you really can't tell that my sweater.
Sort of, yeah.
They're the same color. I'm sorry.
I mean, I also wore sort of a tealy blue thing, and I was like, oh wait, when I watched episode 4, and I was like, oh wait, I sort of matched the blue pantsuit, and
it happens. It's fine.
I know.
I literally match my curtains, but anyway, I want to talk about how Matthew is really abusive. If Matthew had done this in any other scenario, the Jillian scene is rough to watch for somebody that you're supposed to have been in love with up to this point, or at least be kind of falling in love with as the protagonist hero of this story. He stalks her, berates her, assaults her, and leaves her in an alley to die.
For dead.
Yeah.
And this is after giving Diana the cold shoulder, storming off, forbidding her from leaving to go to her family. So this is why Matthew is on my naughty list.
It's bad.
It's really bad.
I mean, I feel like if we were to continue down this road with him, we should have seen Jillian be maybe potentially more dangerous to Diana, or he should have caught her in the act, or she's something.
She's not that devious. Like, she's not a huge threat other than she keeps passing on information.
I feel like there's something missing.
Well, because when he drank her blood, he saw the information. He saw her memories. So he was able to see what she took, which was, the secret information that they were trying to keep hidden, the stuff the things that they had discovered about her DNA and the things that they were trying to keep hidden from the congregation.
Right.
So,
but that's not about Diana. It is a little bit, but a lot of it's just like he doesn't want his research going to the congregation. It's about him.
Yeah. He should have had better security. How did she break in to a top secret?
How did you even know it was there?
Laboratory. Yeah. How do you find it?
True.
So many questions.
A locator spell.
Tammy just said in the YouTube channel, she said Jillian's nastier to Diana in the book, threatens her in the library, and brings up a point that I was going to bring up anyway, which is that Matthew kills her in the book, which is very true. He does kill her in the book. So at the very least, they made a good adaptation for the show, and we're just like, at least he's not going to kill her. He's just going to assault her, drink her blood, leave her in the street.
Later on, he says, I should have killed her, which I was.
Oh, and then he says, I'm going to kill anybody who comes after you. And you're just, we're just meant to think it's like super romantic or something. It's not.
It's like, that is not romantic anymore. And it hasn't been for a long time.
Yeah. But is anything with vampires truly romantic?
Yes. Edward never hurts anybody for Bella. It's always romantic.
Okay.
He's stalking her while she sleeps, and we don't like that. But he, protects her lots of ways. I don't know. I don't remember. I guess if you're gonna like this genre, you have to deal with a bit of abusive hero. Is that it? Like if
I
you
think, yeah, because like literally just watching Vampire Diaries and all the reasons Damon is wrong for Elena or Stefan, whoever you want to be the one, and you know all the bad things that they do, they are just going to be the damaged. They kill people. They feed on humans in order to survive.
I guess. I have a hard time with it. I'm conflicted. I don't like to
I
be
get
like
it.
that. It sucks.
I mean, my first vampire love movie was The Lost Boys, so I get it.
Who do you like in that movie?
Oh, but I was all about Corey Haim.
Okay. So why doesn't brings up another point. Because Jillian does live, would the witches have gone to the police? Like she literally was just assaulted in the street. Is it against congregation rules to like
Probably to involve human law enforcement, because I mean she's got little bite marks on her neck.
yeah.
Probably wouldn't want to open
Animal
yourself up to that
attack.
kind of questions.
Animal attack.
I'm sorry, I've been watching too much Vampire Diaries, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I just find it weird that she like dragged herself to Sylvia's house. Because I think, and even, you know, when you think about what the congregation is going to do, I guess that makes sense because it immediately goes to Knox talking to the other witches about what Matthew has done, and they have a good case against him. You know, it really does actually look like Matthew abducted Diana and then attacked Jillian, which he did. And they have a good case to bring him in and
Yeah.
put him up on whatever congregation charges are supposed to be. So, you know, if you're looking at it from another protagonist perspective, Matthew's, you know, in for it and deserves to be taken to task for what he did. So Diana calls her aunts from Septour. And this is kind of one of the things I wanted to nitpick about this episode. I just haven't seen a good performance from Teresa in this episode. And this is the worst call of all time, where she tells him that she's in love with Matthew and she can't leave him. And I just...
With zero facial expression. She's got those dreamy blue eyes, but those can only get her so far.
It's real bad. It's not good. I don't even remember. I just wrote Diana's call to her aunts. Teresa is terrible. Those were my notes.
So, Shane, sorry, Jan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. So, Shane texted me on Saturday afternoon when she was listening to last we's or last.
This is our
episode.
OG Twilight friend, Shane. Hi, Shane.
Yes. And so she's like, Emily, not me, Emily, Aunt Emily, seems to know a lot, and she hasn't told Sarah. Now, as a couple, that seems like something that, yes, is part of the story, but as a couple, seems super like they don't trust you with that information. Maybe it's because Sarah's such a hothead, but still, I know it comes out in later episodes and is addressed, but still, Em seems just to know so much more. And that's one of the things that she wanted to address. So what are your thoughts on Emily having so much more information than Sarah?
Go ahead, Jana.
I think this whole show has just been couples keeping things from each other. Like, yeah. There's so much Matthew keeps from Diana about the covenant, about her own DNA. So, I mean, to me, it makes sense. All the couples are doing it. I mean, it's contrived for drama, obviously, but.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a definite reason that Emily is more of a closed book than you would expect her to be when they seem to be so close. But I did make a note in these two episodes that every time you see Sarah, she's busting out of a door with like this worried look on her face. She's constantly like, what's up? I mean, like she seems like the kind of person who's just like, nothing is simple. Everything is always a big, huge deal. Right. And Em is very calm and controlled. And I feel like if you've been with a partner for a long time, you know exactly what to bring to them and what not to bring to them because you know what their reactions are going to be like. So I think that that's part of it. They're together. They've been together for a long time. probably knows 100% unless she knows for sure what she needs from Sarah in this situation. Telling Sarah is not going to help the situation. It's going to make it worse, or it's going to make it worse for Sarah specifically. So she just holds it back because there's no point.
Okay.
You know, I do that with my husband all the time.
I feel like she should have brought up the Shadow Prince. Is that what he's called in the stories, Matthew?
Yeah.
I feel like she would have brought that up as soon as Matthew entered Diana's life, though. Like, it would have made sense for her to be like, hey, could this be that guy? Or, like, are you freaking out for no reason because they're destined to be together?
Well, I think when you think about it, I mean, how many phone calls have she had with them? 2, maybe, and they've been about Knox and the book, not really about him. Like, she's mentioned him in passing, and there's a lot of other stuff going on. And so I think maybe it's in the back of her mind, but it's also not like, oh, he's definitely your Shadow Prince. I don't think that's, you know, I don't think it's enough in the front of her mind for it to be the thing she needs to say to her at that moment. I think it's more something she is contemplating being potentially the case. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
Okay. I agree. I think I'm good with all of that. I think we've done that. I've got a couple of other things from Shane, but there's one that I think would go into the next sort of topic of discussion. But I don't know if you want to segue to that. There was someone on a Facebook group that she is in because she wrote. First off, Discovery of Witches is one of her favorite books ever, and she loves Deb Harkness. So, she said in one of the Facebook discussion groups, someone brought up the seemingly quick romance, and doesn't it seem strange that Matthew doesn't remember being married this whole time in his human life? And Diana said that maybe Philippe did something to make that happen, or something. You don't know, but is there something that maybe made Matthew fall so quickly in love? And so you get that story of Matthew's human life in the church. What are your thoughts about that and the story that Isabeau gives Diana and the human life?
For a spoiler, if you want to be spoiled for the next book or the next series, this is a spoiler. But they go back in time to Matthew's former life and are actually married in the past and meet his dad and Isabeau in the past and all of this kind of stuff. And so there's a question, and I know what thread actually Shane is talking about because it was really interesting, where the question is, you know, like, how does Matthew not know that he's been married to Diana in the past, if it's 500 years or 400 years or whatever? And how does, even if he doesn't know, because he goes back to being his old self, who wouldn't have knowledge of that, how do they keep it from everybody that they met during that time frame discussing the fact that he married this witch? And I think that there's a solid case for Philippe, who's kind of the patriarch and kind of in charge of a lot of the vampire world, putting kind of a gag order on everybody about Diana in the old times, to not frustrate or hurt or confuse Matthew, and also to not keep it from coming to fruition. So I like that. That's kind of that's potentially what happened, because there's no way that everybody else forgot. It makes sense that that Matthew would have not known,
right? But
it doesn't make sense for Gallowglass and Philippe and Isabeau and Marthe and all those people to not know. So I think that it makes sense for him to have put this gag order on it. It doesn't make sense for them to forget. And so then it's also strange when she comes to meet them at Septour for like Isabeau and Marthe to be belligerent, or at least Isabeau to be standoffish, especially if she knew that Diana had Philippe's like stamp of approval. So that's kind of the problem, I guess, with the time travel aspect of the series, which I'm sure Deborah has got figured out, and I haven't read enough of her extra canon kind of information to know what she thinks about that. But I like the idea that Philippe handled it. And then I like the idea that when Matthew meets her for the first time and he's telling her what she smells like, and he says, "Things I thought I had forgotten." I like the idea that her scent is drawn directly to memories of his former self, because her scent still would have been on his things. And the fact that there's a former part of him that knows her that he didn't know knew her and has been around and meant home and love and mating and all that kind of stuff, and for it to come back to him when he meets her in the present is pretty cool. I like that idea.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I actually didn't, because I didn't know that thread. I thought it meant more that he had been married in his human life, and the story that Isabel tells of the first marriage and his child. So that's why I was using it as a segue into that story.
Yeah, I mean,
episode.
I'm not really. That's why I don't understand Isabeau's motivations. It makes sense if this is the first bit that you've seen of the story and you don't know what's going to what's going to happen in the future. But for a show that's done really well of pulling things that are going to be important in later books or in later, episodes and things like that, they've pulled a lot of important things together that you can see them come to fruition later on. So it is kind of weird that that's her thread throughout these couple of episodes, is the antagonist to Diana's falling in love with Matthew. So it is kind of a strange thing that I don't understand. And so talking about Bianca and Lucas, especially when she tells her specifically that was his first love, he'll only ever love them, you'll never give him a child. All of these things are very strange in light of what happens in the second novel. So it could be that they all forget, or that they all don't know that it's happening or had happened. Because otherwise that particular motivation in the show specifically, and it does happen in the book like that for the most part, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, or at least I don't understand it in terms of time travel. So
right.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's up in the air.
I knew they had time traveled, but I'd forgotten a lot of the rest. So when Matthew goes back in time, are there two Matthews in time? Or does just Diana go back in time to that Matthew?
No, he goes back as himself. Present Matthew goes back in time. And I think in the book, it discusses how he goes back specifically to a spot where he knew he had left. So like he had been in London at that particular night, this particular year, and he knew that his self in that time had gone off to Scotland or something.
Okay.
And so he knew he wouldn't be there because he doesn't say run into myself, but that's kind of what's implied. But then I read something later on that made me think that when he's back in time, his past self kind of dissolves and isn't there anymore. So it's confusing. And I mean, to be honest, I haven't read the books enough to know. And I mean, I have the World of All Souls book. I need to go through it and see, but I don't know for sure what the lore of that particular thing is supposed to be. But it's mega confusing in terms of.
That's how I understood it, Beth, is that the present one replaces the past one, and the past one just is hanging out in the ether.
Yeah.
Waiting for the present one to leave.
Yeah. I don't know though. Because I do remember him saying something about in the beginning of Shadow of Night, he knew he was gone, so he could come back to that particular place. And I think his friends and stuff were like, "Oh, you're still here, and what happened to your beard?" That kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know. But it is a crazy continuity thing.
But getting back to this season.
Yes, sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, it's cool.
Are we going to talk about their fastest romance of all time?
We are. Because I actually, that's almost my next thing, but we can skip what I was going to talk about because they have this very unromantic phone call where it's just like, hey, what's up? And then he very romantically does tests on her DNA. It's like, hey, yeah, good night, Diana. And then he's like, all this music comes in and he's like doing all the tests on her DNA. And it's just like, that's the romance. And I was like, it's just, he gets a boner from like smelling her hair follicle. He sets it down and then he falls in love with her genetic markers. And he's like, now we're in love. Now this is what's happening. It has nothing to do with her.
She's a special snowflake. She has all the powers. She's the survival of the species.
It really looks and plays like he falls in love with her because of her genetics. It does not have anything to do with her. And even when he rushes back to her, he tells Miriam, help me run these tests again before I go. And it's like he's rushing back like, I can't wait to tell you about your genes, baby. I mean, it's just, it's so cheesy. It's such a weird thing for them to fall in love over. And I mean, like, why are they in love? Like, why are they in love at this point? It does not make any sense.
Well, and then he admits it to Hamish that he's in love with her and says it.
Yes.
She's clever. She's funny. And I'm like, is she though? I'm like, when have we seen any of this? When have you seen any of this, Matthew? Like,
you left her. Yes. You left her crying.
You left her to the witch water. And you're telling everyone else, even Miriam's like, you're going to mate her, you love her. It's like, everyone knows.
Yeah, his mom,
before he leaves, he speaks a word.
Like, he tells his mom in like Occitan or whatever that language is that he's like going to mate her or whatever. She's like, I know. And he's like, okay. So, I mean, yeah, he hasn't had any. When has he had these experiences with her enough to be like, she's it? It really is.
No. They danced in one episode, like that 5 minutes of dancing. They could tell.
I am not impressed.
It reminded me so much of Bree and Roger in this last season, where they have no relationship. They don't talk for months, and then as soon as they see each other, they get married. It was exactly like that.
It was, and they did get married. He comes back and he's like, this hand holding, this Holy Palmer's kiss is it. This is it.
And like he tells her he loves her after they mate for all eternity. It just was so badly done.
It really reads like he's falling in love with her genetic markers, and that's what makes her special. And so then when Satu says he doesn't love her, he just wants her for her power, that seems like, yeah, that's probably true.
Like,
that's probably what's going on.
That's valid. Valid.
I buy that. I fully buy that. It is kind of really strange. Especially because their phone call is so not romantic and sweet. It's so boring and stoic and just, it's like perfunctory. It's like they've been married for 30 years already.
Well, and she asked him a question about like what he discovered or how everything's going, and his only response is, "Oh, you don't need to worry about that," or "I don't want to worry." Like, not even being honest with her, not treating her like a grown up, but as a child who he can't tell anything to. And then and these two,
they go up to his rooms and he's like, I have something to tell you. And she's like, what is this? She thinks he's handing her like some paper, and he's like, your DNA, it really got me hot and I had to get here. Let's kiss.
You're super powerful and that really turns me on.
Yeah. But they do decide to go to bed together. And this is the first like sexy scene. And I was cracking up because she goes to unbutton his shirt. And our friend and writer, that's normal writer, Katie. Hi, Katie, if you're watching, doesn't think that Matthew Good is attractive. And so when she starts to unbutton his shirt and he says, you might not like what you see, my notes just say, Katie, because I have a feeling that Katie's not going to like what she sees. But He looks good. He's a lot more buff underneath there than he looks.
Yes, with clothes on, he looks like a total string bean, but I was. And I don't think he's attractive either. His face doesn't do anything for me.
Aww.
But when he was like totally naked in his, or at least in his underwear later, I was like, okay.
Yeah, he's beefy under there. Like he's a beefy string bean.
He's put some time into the gym and it shows.
I think he looks good. I feel bad for all of the times I thought he was too skinny. He looks good. You know, in his little black panties. He looked fine. I thought it was funny too. The bundling scene is, you know, it's when you read the book, it's it's one of those indelible scenes in your mind. Like it's so odd, like for her to be talking about bundling and then for them to not like have sex, but just have like good heavy petting sex, but it still be hot. So it seems weird that they talk about it on the show, even though you know that scene's coming up. I remember I was watching it with my husband. He was like, "What is happening?" And I was like, "They're just about to kind of do it." And he's like, "What are they talking about?" And I was like, "Nothing."
And it was so hard to tell what they were doing. I'm like, "What base are we getting to? Like, is he going down? Are they just like dry humping? What is happening?"
I think it was easy to tell. His hand does the whole hand motion it needs to do to get in between her legs. I think it was easy.
So I was listening to the audiobook of this, and I have an office door that I can shut. And so I normally just let my audiobooks play. And I was like, okay, so what's happening? And I was like, oh, pause. I was like, let's make sure nobody can hear what's happening. Because I was like, I did not expect the book to go there. So
I read on Twitter today, or a couple of days ago, there was a thread where a girl had said that her Bluetooth headphones the battery died or whatever, like right in the middle of a sex scene. And like all of a sudden it was like base of his cock. And she was like, ah!
Yes.
Oh, I love it. Do it more. It's so funny. But this scene was good. I mean, I've read people saying like you can't tell that they're not having sex, which is important for the plot. But I think you can. They're still clothed. He still has his pants on. She's still fully dressed. And then they just cuddle. I mean, you could assume that it's fading to black and they're going to have more sex, but also you could, you know, you see her get off. So like I think that you could easily assume that they're not going to have sex at the same time. So I think it's a good scene. It works for me. I thought it was plenty hot. I also thought it was cute when she's like, "That's not bundling." He's like, "It is in France." Like that was cute and funny.
Yeah.
That was the first time I really thought like I could sense chemistry between them. Because I really haven't up to this point. But I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that was hot. It was believable.
Yeah, it was a good little
whatever they did, whatever base they got to.
Yeah.
It was believable.
I mean, it was definitely more than fade to black from Twilight, so.
Yes. Oh, fade to sad. So we go from pretty good sex scene to Matthew finally sleeping and the flying witch at the end of this episode, which is literally the worst. So it went from good to bad really quick. But Satu comes in and picks her up and it's just a terrible little, I mean, it's actually not that bad at the end of episode 5 because it's so quick. You kind of don't care. But
it's really bad at beginning of 6.
The beginning of 6, they come in flying and it's just terrible. And I really feel like all of that from the flying till she throws her in the hole was very, this is the one thing I really want to talk about in episode 6. It was too protracted. It was just too long. We went through Satu just trying to get to her power, trying to figure out what it is. Satu looks sympathetic at a lot of points. Like at one point when Diana is talking about her parents being killed by witches, Satu is crying. And you're like, am I supposed to feel empathy for her? Do I feel good about Satu? Because then she goes and frees this other witch. There's just so much going on. And that particular scene, for having as much CGI as it had, they just should have done it in short flashes, like short flashes of torture. And then Matthew's response when he wakes up, short flashes of torture, Emily and Sarah's response, short flashes, you know, all of the different responses of the people who were looking for her. And they do that. It does go back to Knox and it goes back to Baldwin and it goes back to Isabeau. But then the torture scenes in between are too long and you see too much. and it's so cheesy that you just want it to end. And it doesn't really do anything for the plot other than the fact that she's torturing her. So we didn't really need to see it all, I don't think. But,
yeah, I felt it was way too long, and I just I remember it from the book, and I was like, I don't remember it being that long in the book. So
is it that important? Like, I mean, I get
Yeah.
she tries to open her up, and it causes issues for both of them. And she does the branding and all of that, but I just felt like it could have been done in flashes, and we're not really learning anything new. And the only thing that really comes out of that scene, or all of those scenes in together, is that you do feel some sort of empathy with Satu. And I'm not sure that you're supposed to do that. I mean, are we? She seems like she's fully malevolent in the book.
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't remember her from the book. So, I mean, I just thought, oh, maybe it made her like layered, like she's not just mindlessly evil because she cares about, and maybe she thinks like she's mad at Diana because she thinks Diana's betrayed them for the vampires.
Sure, she's on the side of the witches.
Yeah.
For good. And that's what it seems like, is that she's on the side of the good witches, but that isn't the case.
But Jana, maybe you're right. Maybe it does make her feel multi-leveled. So, I mean, maybe you're right.
I wish I could
ask
remember
about the head in the box?
Sure. I don't know what I know about it, but yeah.
I don't remember it from the book at all.
Yeah, it's there in the book. And
Okay.
it does the same thing. It's this ancient witch that he's just holding to have his prophecy. And it's super annoying, I think, in both. I don't remember specifically what happens with her in the book, but I know in this, I'm like, she's saying the same thing over and over again. What is he keeping this thing around for thousands of years or whatever, if it's going to say the same thing to him all the time?
I don't remember it at all. And I was like, what is this? So.
And why do we keep having scenes of her saying it over and over and over again? Like, you never get new information out. But I feel like you hear her say that prophecy like 5 or 6 times.
It's like the voiceover that Matthew does at the beginning of the
Yes.
Beware the witch with the blood of the lion and the wolf. Over and over. So it is kind of redundant and doesn't seem like it's important, except to show that Satu has some sympathy for other witches, and which is just ridiculous, because that's not what she's supposed. That's not what her character is supposed to be. It's very strange. I also noticed in this part, we're supposed to assume that Diana's power comes out when she needs it. And it comes out kind of involuntarily when she needs it the most. And here is the worst thing that's ever happened to her, and nothing.
She even uses power to like push Satu away at one point at the beginning.
At the very beginning.
At the beginning. Yeah. But like she's getting her body torn open and nothing.
Yeah. It would have made
inconsistent.
Yeah, it would have made more sense if while this is happening, and again, if the torture scenes had been much shorter, we would have seen like her kind of going crazy, like witch wind and maybe like some water and just like a lot of things that her body was doing to stop, but they just weren't powerful enough to stop it. But instead, there's nothing.
And Satu says, like, I think because she tries to do the witch
does try wind,
and Satu's like, that doesn't work on me anyways. So like you said, like even showing her try, like have her body try to use magic that's just not effective in this situation.
Yeah. And it seems
would have made more sense.
She would have been chaotic. Things would have been happening that were chaotic with her body. For the worst thing that's ever happened to her, for her to not have any kind of response just seemed weird, when we've already established that her
magic comes out when she needs it.
When she needs it, when she's overly emotional, all of those things. So it's kind of strange. And if they hadn't, already established that, it would have been a fine scene. And then again, just way too long. Super too long. I still don't even understand why Satu like drops her down the hole.
Like she says like I have to come back for her. There's more I need. So it's just in the book. It wasn't it called like that? Yeah, she tells it to your bear. She's like, I need more time. So it was just the place to like keep her locked up. I want to know about the branding. Why does Satu brand her? Like, does she brand her on purpose with that brand? Is it just a byproduct of the spell?
My assumption when I read the book was that the opening spell, that's what it left on her. Kind of like, and it would have been cooler, I think, if when they're doing that light thing down the center of her back, the spell would have taken the shape of the half moon and the star. Mm-hmm. Instead of a line that then doesn't leave a scar, something else does. But my assumption was that the opening spell, that was what her body responded with, or that was what the spell did to her body. But it doesn't look like that in the show. It looks like she just brands her specifically with it, like as a extra little FU or something.
Yes.
So it is weird that
it was accidental. Like she didn't mean to do it or didn't know that it was Matthew's
insignia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like in the book, I felt like that. Like I felt like she was doing the opening spell and it coincidentally or incidentally left it in the shape of his insignia, which meant that there was something about Diana that was specific to him.
Right.
But in the show, when she's doing the branding, she does it in this line, and then she does this extra like little thing with her hand and pulls the brand up. And Tammy just said in YouTube, she says she brands her to let everyone know she's Matthews, which is supposed to be a danger to Diana because of the congregation.
Got it.
Which makes lots of sense. But I really don't think that didn't come out in the show. It doesn't make sense in the show. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember that from the book, but I fully believe that. That makes a lot of sense. But it almost becomes the big thing at the end of the episode, the thing that's hurting her the most. And it seems like it kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Very, very weird. I did think I wanted to say the witch with the head, the Meridiana or whatever, she looks like a young Olivia Colman. Just throw that out there.
I can see that, like in the eyes and the teeth.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we see Agatha and Sophie again have a convo about Agatha being a witch, or from witches, which I appreciate. I really like every time we see them. I think they're really great.
Mm-hmm. I still want to know more about demons. Like, give us, because I don't remember them from the book. Like, give me more. Like, what their powers are, what their problems are.
Yeah, we have a little demon dinner in this episode.
Yeah.
And again, they don't really seem to have any specificity about what they are, what they do, how they react, how they fit into the world of the creatures or what's going on with them. They just seem human.
Yeah. So Shane had another thing about Sophie during the last episode. Beth said you loved the actress playing Sophie, and Shane wanted to know if you had heard if that same actress is going to be playing her ancestor in season 2, because they think that they talk about how Sophie looks like her Norman relative. Do you know anything about that casting news?
No, I haven't actually. There hasn't been any casting information come out at all. So they haven't released anything. There's no speculation on IMDb about anybody. And I know for sure that they haven't cast like the new characters. Like there's no Philippe, there's no Gallowglass. So as far as like people that might need to be like that, like Sophie, that would need to be, in the future or in the past as an ancestor, I have no idea because they haven't done casting at all for that season. I mean, it hasn't started. So.
Okay. That was something from Shane. So.
But Tammy just said, it's true regarding Sophie playing her ancestor. Deb said so in a Facebook live chat. So I missed that completely.
Oh, that's cool.
It makes sense if you're supposed to see that correlation between the two. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it worked with Blackjack and Frank.
It always works.
It always works with Tobias. No matter how often they bring him back where he doesn't belong.
That's right.
No matter what wig you put on him.
Yeah. So there's another cute little tidbit at the end of this episode where you see Satu releases Meridiana and she says, "Thank you, Weaver." And you see Satu go, "Weaver." and kind of question what she says. And then at the very end of the episode, when Isabeau and Mart and Matthew mention that they think Diana has been spellbound, and she says all of these things about like, but you only do that when somebody is dangerous. And then she looks in the mirror and she says, what am I? I love the little bits like that, where it's just kind of both of them questioning what someone else has told them about themselves right there at the end of the episode, and how those two things will come to play together in the future. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, I love these books. I really thought they were so good. And you said you have the All Souls other thing.
The World of All Souls. It's like the, like a big companion encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought they were so, I just love the world that they created, that Deb created. So
needs werewolves, but other than that, it's great.
Yeah.
Gallaglass should have been a werewolf.
I think of him kind of like a werewolf, kind of like Sabretooth from the X-Men.
Oh,
I know that's wrong. Is that wrong? That's how I think of him. Like real shaggy and blonde and big and.
Oh, see, I definitely feel he's got like red hair, big and red hair.
Is he redheaded?
I feel like he was blonde. Because I always pictured him as Chris Hemsworth, like Thor, basically.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe it's strawberry blonde.
Okay.
Fingers crossed. Maybe it's rose gold.
Rose gold.
I probably just look like I have a bad hair job, but it's rose gold in this light, I promise. Okay, so that's episodes 5 and 6. They weren't my faves. They had their moments, but they were few and far between. And both of them had, a little bit of like pacing / editing issues. It could have been better. Still hoping for that AMC BBC money in season 2, guys. Fingers crossed. But keep the same writers and stuff. Just, work it out a little bit better. We'll be excited about it. I'm excited still. 7 and 8 are great. Can't wait to talk about them. Anything left we need to say about 5 and 6?
I still haven't watched 8, so I'm really excited about that. Yeah, I've kind of been saving it.
You are saving it.
So that it's fresh.
It's very fresh. You're going to be very excited. So in 2 weeks, guys, in 2 weeks, we will be talking about episodes 7 and 8, the last 2 of season 1. And then what are we going to do? I don't know. Talk about other things.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Hang of Thrones. Hang of Thrones.
We need Hang of Thrones.
The trailer dropped today, and it's all very exciting.
I've watched it so many times.
I know. My husband and I are on our second walkthrough right now. We have 1 episode left of season 7. He was like, "What are you doing tonight? We have 1 episode left." I'm like, "We're watching it tomorrow. That's what we're doing." So anyway.
There's a Harry Potter Hangout on Thursday, and then next week there's going to be talking Captain Marvel. So.
Yes. Talking Captain Marvel. If you're into Harry Potter, they're doing Emily and some of the other girls are doing Harry Potter rereads. They're on Chamber of Secrets.
Yep.
So snap on
Thursday.
in. Yep. It's so much more fun to do it live than just to listen later. So if you can get on live this Thursday, right?
This Thursday.
What time?
Yep. We do it at 5:30, 8:30.
Okay.
So
8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. That'll be fun. And then in 2 weeks, guys, we'll do the rest of A Discovery of Witches. And we hope that you will be there with us. It's been fun. Thank you, Tammy and Little Miss Nomad and everybody that's been in YouTube. It's been fun talking to you guys, and we will see you very soon. Good night.
Good night.